What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome to an exciting episode here as we are counting down, baby, to the final days heading up to the 2023 NC State football season. And we're going to bring in here one of my all-time favorites, and Andre Brown, former NC State running back here. Andre, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So kind of get into it first. What's going on? Just kind of give us an update. What is the life of Andre Brown in these days?
Oh man, it's good. It's good.
Yeah,
Currently working for a software company, a startup called Green Matter out of DC.
nice.
So I'm dealing with, it's a small company, but like only like 60 people, and we're most of our contracts are in the government side of the house. So I'm like dealing with some three acronym names, letters, and stuff like that. So you know,
That's where I work.
yeah, okay. So that's what I'm doing. And then on the side, I'm coaching my son's Pop Warner football team. So we're still in the Raleigh area, still in Cary and doing. I'm around. I'm around.
Yeah. Are you head coach, running backs coach?
The office coordinator,
All right.
assistant. Because it's
Wait,
my first.
assistant?
Yeah, the assistant. Because it's my first year coaching. My
Okay.
son was like, I was sitting there and I couldn't help but last year because it was our first year playing tackle football, and he just hears me like talking and be like, "Why are you using that way?" Play schemes and running schemes. Even when I'm at the state games, I'm like, "Oh, this guy's open this." He's like, "Dad, you should just coach. Like, just coach. Like, you're sitting here telling us what we should do and this, that, and the third. You should just coach." So this is my first year. Definitely. I can talk to him a certain type of way, but I have other kids that I'm talking to, and he's
Right.
just like, he coaches me after practice. He was like, "This was good. Why won't you just say it and stop being so nice?" So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Like I
Yep.
get frustrated and I'm sitting there and I gotta scream and I'm like, "Oh, these are not my kids." I was like, but
Yeah.
that's how
Well,
I grew up playing football. So
and it's funny, like literally, like maybe not even a half mile down the road here. Last year, I was coming back from having dinner with my wife, and there was a baseball field, and in the outfield, they had like a Pop Warner League games going on, and so I was like, "Well, I'll just check it out, see what's going on." And man, like the parents were brutal, man. Just
yeah.
like there was 800 coaches on the sidelines, man. I was like,
Yeah.
this is yeah. See, because like I'm just competitive as anybody else, and
Right.
I'm like, but even that, I'm sitting there going, man, all right, if my kids get into football or whatever, I'm really gonna do the best I can, try and not be one of those because it's not a good look, it's not fun,
Yeah.
but I'm also here saying too, and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm getting my kids, in contact sports, I'm getting them in football, man, to get them going, you know what I mean? Hey, but so does your son play running back or is he
We moved him to running back,
let's
but he's
go.
more naturally a defensive guy because
All right.
he comes to me. He was like last year. He was like, "I just like hitting people." And I'm like,
Oh, let's
"Okay."
go.
I'm like, "Okay." Like you sound like you got some built up aggression, buddy. Is anything okay? You want to talk? He's like, "No, I just like hitting them." I'm like, "Okay, all right, let's work with that." So
That's
Cool.
he's good. But
So,
running back and safety and yeah, DB. So that's where I see him naturally playing is a
okay.
DB. Yeah, he's a good cover.
So tell me, so just that way we can go and create the 24/7 page. So class of 2035. What we
No,
got?
29.
29? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cool.
he'll be there.
He'll be
He's
at
already he'll be
yeah,
at
when's he
state.
committing?
He's committing. I think we're gonna get a scholarship offer probably
There we go.
about
Oh,
4
let's
years.
There
go.
we go.
Let's go. I love it. I love it.
I- I-
Yeah.
but
Hey, I'm down for it. And, and,
yeah.
and just for our viewers too, like I tried to do a little bit of research, but I couldn't find it. Kind of give me an overview in terms of, are you married? Like, how long and then like how many kids you have? Like, if you wouldn't mind just kind of for our followers, just getting a little bit overview of your family, man.
Yeah, I'm married. I do have one son, Sebastian.
Okay.
We're in our Raleigh area, and that's about it. You know,
Sweet. All right. Cool.
soon to be married one day. You know what I'm talking about. So
All
we ain't gonna
right. All
get
right.
into
All right.
we ain't gonna get into all
All right. All right.
that.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit of the coming up with Andre Brown. So starting off originally from Baltimore, Maryland, correct?
Right.
Correct. So when did you when did you end up at JH Rose here in the North Carolina area, and just how did you kind of grow up finding your love of football?
Oh, so yeah, started in Baltimore, families from Baltimore, moved down to it actually happened because my cousin, um, he went to ECU at the time.
Makes
And
sense.
I was in town. I used to stay with him over the summer, and they had training camp and this, that, and the third. So he was before he got injured. He had like a heat stroke, so he stopped playing football. And
Mm,
then my summers was down here going to ECU camp, and one of the camps, Greg Thomas was who was the head coach at JH Rose, saw me. He was like, "Hey, North Carolina football is way better than Baltimore football." And, my cousin was just like, yes, Andre, let's do this because I feel like you have the talent to go and, accomplish some of the things that I've accomplished.
yep.
So, you know, cousin came up in the middle of the night, talked my mom into having me move down to North Carolina my sophomore year in high school. Freshman year in Baltimore, I ended up playing varsity. I was a fullback at that time, and then I was wanting to be a wide receiver. So that transaction, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna reinvent myself and come down to Greenville. And I was playing wide receiver at that ECU football camp, and he
Nice.
was like, "Nah." Coach Thomas was like, "I will have you at running back." Came, me and my cousin came. We transferred down to JH Rose. I was still fighting to be a wide receiver. And he's like, "Do you want the ball?" So, Andre, we have nobody to throw you the ball. Do you want the ball maybe 3 times a game? Or I can give you the ball 30 to 40 times a game. Uh,
All
Basic
right.
math tells you,
yeah. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, let's go to running back. And, freshman year, didn't play the first 2 games. And then I had that breakout game in my third game of my sophomore year. And that's when everything started falling into place.
Yeah. No
All
kidding.
the offers. Duke was my first scholarship offer coming in from my after my sophomore year into my junior year. Then all the North Carolina schools started to fall in.
Mhm.
Chuck and what was my guy's name? I forgot who recruited me. Diaz, Manny
oh,
Diaz
Manny
was
Diaz.
Ooh,
Manny Diaz
nice.
was in Greenville all the time.
Yeah.
And then from there, yeah, the rest is went in state championship, and yeah, I called JH. I mean Greenville second home
Yeah.
besides Raleigh.
Yeah. So kind of give it to me here. I mean, in terms of, I mean, obviously, like this 24/7 page I looked at here is obviously not completely up to date because you're listed as a borderline top 100 recruit nationally, number 10 running back recruit in the country, but it only has here 3 offers between Virginia, UNC, and NC State. Uh,
Yeah,
I mean, so were those maybe those 3 on here because those were the finalists,
they was
or
the finalists.
okay?
I think those was the finalists because you remember the show Countdown. I don't know how old are you guys. I don't know if y'all.
I'm old. I'm
Okay,
older. I'm the oldest one here.
okay. So remember the show Countdown to Signing Day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Mhm.
that. It was like based in Atlanta, Georgia. This and the third. So um, they was like, just give me the 3 top schools that I wanted to go to, and I committed on Countdown to Signing Day to state. Um, I don't know why that they didn't have all those offers. I mean, UVA, Auburn, Miami, Florida State,
Nice.
Nebraska, West Virginia.
Wow.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
I remember Tommy Frazier came down too. If y'all remember them,
Oh
Tommy
yeah,
Frazier
quarterback for
was,
Nebraska. Yeah.
yeah, Tommy Frazier came and sat down there. Um, what else? East Coast.
A lot of
I
them.
did. I
Yeah.
didn't get Georgia. I didn't get Georgia. Georgia didn't know. South Carolina, Georgia Tech, but mostly all the ACC schools.
Was there a dream school of that bunch that if they offered?
When I was, yeah, Florida State. You can see how I pivot. I
I was
had
gonna
Chuck
say.
at that time,
Yeah,
so
makes
he
sense.
was
Ah.
still like, that's how he got me. He's like, why go
Mm,
down there when you can stay here? I'm from Florida State, this, that, and the third. I can get you to where you want to be, this, that, and the third. I had
ah.
I think my sophomore year, junior year, I had FSU bound on my cleats.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes, that's how
Okay.
it was. That's how it was going to go. But Chuck came down there and was like, "You don't need to go down there. We got you right here." So,
So, and Greg, I'll let you. I want to bring you in here after this question here, but this
Yeah.
a question from a fan here, or for a follower here, Cam, asking, during your recruiting process, what drew you to state over the other programs that offered? Besides just the, convincing of Chuck Amato saying, why go to Florida when you could just stay here? Is there anything else you would add to it? Whether it's the campus, the program itself, like what other things would you say drew you to the program?
it was definitely the atmosphere. Going to that first game, I think my first game was when they were playing. Ohio State came here.
Ooh,
Yeah,
nice.
Ohio
Yeah.
State came. And to be honest, I wanted to be an engineer. Uh,
Ooh,
and my whole recruiting process, that I mean, the engineering school was ranked like number 2 in the nation or something like that at the time. I don't know where it stands now. It's still up there. It's a high engineering
very
program.
high. Yeah.
Um, and that was it because my mom was like, "Well, we need to do this education thing." I'm like, "Yeah, mom, whatever." Um, but
Football, football,
yeah,
football.
that's
Yes.
exactly what it was. Um, and yeah, it was the atmosphere. The Murphy Center was just built.
Mm.
Um, the College Inn on Western, they was like, they was full blown apartments.
Yep.
They weren't like dorms at like the U House that they was like at other colleges that we was at. But definitely being an engineer and Chuck Amato in the atmosphere, walking in the Murphy Center was like, all right, this is where it just felt comfortable.
That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, And so, kind of talk to me in terms a little bit, before we kind of move on from the JH Rose thing, I wanted to kind of bring up about how, another famous NC State player that came from JH Rose, that at least I could think of. There's probably others, but the only first one I could think of is Catavia Street, former borderline 4 or 5 star
Yep.
defensive end, committed to Doran's first class in Pac 13.
All right.
And so, I mean, were you in like, did you ever talk to Street, or I mean, if
I
there was
never
some?
talked to Street. That was my because that I was still playing when
You're still in the league
Street.
at that point.
I was
Yeah.
still I
That's right.
was
Hmm.
this I regret saying this, but I was just so like involved in the NFL. I was just like on a different page.
Makes
But
sense.
um, I have talked to Allen, the current running back over there. I talked to him, especially throughout his recruiting process. When
Nice.
it was like COVID years, I guess, when we were
Mm-hmm.
recruiting him.
Sounds pretty
Mm-hmm.
close to it. Yeah.
Yeah, just talking to him. I feel like he's gonna have a big year.
Nice.
Especially with him, his speed and his trusting to the offense. I mean, I know it's a new offense, so I still
Hmm.
feel that he's going to be he's just too fast.
Yeah.
He's too fast. You got to put that on the field and let him fly.
Yeah.
But yeah, Street didn't talk too much, but I did talk to Allen a lot, and because he's kind of same path of what we're doing that I came from. James Rose, running back, to stand at third. Merce, who played with me, that's over there at State, like reached out to me, like, "Hey man, I need you to talk to this kid to stand at third." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So yeah, that's out of
Perfect.
those two, that's who I was talked to the most.
Let's go. Awesome. Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flightland's Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flightland's Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flightlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flightlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. All right. So let's kind of talk a little bit here now about your time at State. Obviously, I think to this day, like it's funny. We did like a breakdown of the what was it, 2006 season, 2008 season,
Yep.
Andre. So yes, yeah, your senior year,
Yep.
and one of the things that Greg and I were talking about on that episode was like, I think that if you didn't get caught up in that coaching change between Amato and O'Brien, that I think your whole career at State would have been even better than what it was. Because I think that you were talented as heck. You played in a lot of games. You had a lot of highlights, and so to me, I'm sitting here saying, if you would have played with Amato for your 4 years, and been with him, you know, I think you've been easily, could have been easily a top 5, running back in NC State history. So kind of give me your first thoughts. When you think about your time at NC State, do you feel that that there was some left on the table, or do you feel like that you gave it all, like your all, and like kind of give me your overall thoughts of your career before we kind of start to break it down a little bit.
All right, let me see. Let's go back into that. My time there was great.
Okay.
Coach Amato definitely taught me. He definitely, on a motivational side of things, he knew how to get me riled up and going, right?
Sweet.
And I will say that Tom O'Brien really, and Coach Sweat taught me the football game.
Really?
Because I will say, I don't know if it was maybe I'm being young, freshman and sophomore year. I was young, and then I matured in my junior, senior year. But definitely, like, relying on my athletic ability, my my freshman and sophomore year was key to me, and that's why as I look at it, or I look back at it, I'll take stuff and just bounce it outside instead of actually
as the play was designed.
Pressing the hole and then taking it out there. And then junior year and sophomore year, that's when I started seeing, the offense and started realizing what the defense is, and that kind of made me mature enough to where later on in life when I went to the NFL, that was actually progressional from Tom O'Brien's era to that. It could have been that I was just getting older and I just started developing that way, or that's how I look at it right now. So I kind of go back and forth about that. I do feel like it was some stuff left on the table though. But that's also to the competition that we had there too. We had some studs. We had T-Bag, who was a 5-star athlete coming in. We had Darrell Blackman. We had Bobby Washington. We had Jamel Eugene. Like, we had some studs that we had to kind of switch the pace of the game up. And I guess that when we were like the original like running back by committee, because then my average is I still had a good yards per carry. A good average, but being the guy, I never actually was the guy.
Yeah. Looking at your stats, you're right. Your most carries was your senior year at 175, and that's really not a lot in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Especially as football was still more of it hadn't teetered on the full air assault that we see now, where teams are pushing. There was still a lot of running game going on back there.
Right.
But I guess I kind of want to just know, like, when you came into state, you hit the ground running. I mean, you didn't get redshirted. You just, I mean, you played a full season. Just kind of talk to me about that, and like, I mean, how you were ready physically to hit that demand.
Yeah, definitely. It took it to what, third game, fourth game though. I mean, but
Yeah.
I was crushing it in camp. Like, even I'll never forget it. Like, when I didn't have a car at the time, I used to ride up to the Murphy Center with most of the seniors, like Mario and Willie and TJ.
Yeah.
TJ was the tight end. He's like, man, you're a dog. Like, don't let this, because I was buried. If my freshman year, I was
Mhm.
like the fifth running back,
Right.
but I
Mhm.
was out there cooking everybody. I was doing my
Let's
thing,
go.
and then
Yeah.
what happened? I think it was like my Southern Miss game. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, 32 carries for 248 yards, 2
right,
touchdowns, like, golly.
right. I would never forget it because it was Coach who fumbled. Well, T. Bake fumbled, and then D. Black fumbled, and then Coach Amato just got upset with everyone. Like, put Andre in. I was like, all right,
Finally.
I've been
Let's
here for a
go.
couple weeks now. I can't miss this opportunity. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then I had the big game, and then the follow up game where it was just like the universal line,
Yeah.
and then everybody. It was the next game was the Florida State game, and I just remember, you know, us watching the highlights in the hotel as we were sitting in Tallahassee, and then what's his name? Oh my gosh, who's the white coach? Made me room with the senior B. Clark, Brandon Clark,
Mm.
and he was like, "Yo, are you ready?" I was like, "It's Florida State. It's prime time. Everybody's about to
Yeah.
see me do this." And he's like, "Don't let up all the gas." And then,
That's right.
like, what, second carry, third carry, 60 yards to the
Gone,
crib, and
gone.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be here. That was my moment in football where I was like, oh, I'm actually good. I'm actually I'm decent. Not, it wasn't the Southern Miss game with the 200 yards. It
Right.
was that game, that carry, and just watching that game. I'm just remembering, like, Smoke. Smoke is the equipment manager.
Yep.
Y'all
Yeah.
probably
Yep.
know him.
Former
Smoke
student
coming.
equipment manager, so Smoke is the boy, yeah.
Yeah, Smoke coming to me on the side. All right, Brown, let's go. You already set the tempo. Let's go. Let's shock the world.
Yes, sir.
I'm like, this is it. I was like, I like
Let's go.
this, and I
Yeah.
like this, and then had a good game that thing, and the rest was history.
For you, it's probably because the whole Florida State, mystique, that's where you wanted to go. It was, time and place, right?
Yeah,
Southern
Mhm.
Miss is nice, but it's not Florida State, right?
yeah,
It's not the tomahawk chop on it, like you said, a Saturday night. It's something about it, and
yeah,
that I could see where that would be my moment to be like, all right, yeah, I could do this.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can do
for
this.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never forget it. That's good times.
So, kind of talk to me real quick here, because I know we want to kind of wrap up part one. And, we'll continue this conversation part two here, but kind of talk to me about, I'm curious because I haven't talked to some player during that transition time. When did you start to get the sense, because I'm sure that that there was people talking to you being like, if if state doesn't improve, mottos can be gone, like, did was that ever, like, really coming across your head of, like, when did it really start to come across, like, motto actually might be fired if we don't bump it,
That was the craziest moment. It was they set us down, right? Then this was
Okay.
I yeah, it was a group of people that set some of the seniors down that just said it there.
Yep.
Chuck was there, and then, like, just a handful of people. I remember what's his name? Lee Flower.
Yep, AD.
Mhm. Lee
AD
Fowler,
was
yep.
there, the senator, and then they was like, we have to win these games or something like that of that nature in order to, keep Chuck to senator. At that moment, I was like, I'm 19 years old. I
That's a
don't
lot of
know.
pressure. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just out here trying to play football and win football, and that's what happened. So
Yeah. Wow.
Then that rumbling started happening because we went on a losing streak that sophomore year, right?
Yeah.
We didn't go to a bowl.
7 losses in a row.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I remember of ringing, like, if we don't did we lose to Carolina that year?
At UNC, you lost, and then you lost at home to ECU to end up the season.
Oh, that's not going to end well. That's not going to end well.
So that's what it was, the ECU game, because they came and they got us, and they was like, yeah, we got to. That was the whole week of we have to finish the season. We got to win Carolina, like the state championship. That's when that whole thing started coming on, the state championship, like beat all the schools in the state championship. I was like, that year, that's when that was a thing that came the following year, and then now it's a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they sat down and they said, hey, y'all got to win these games, and we didn't. And then all of a sudden, we was in for a new coaching change. And I remember I remember Norm Chow was on the list. The strong candidates was trying to get Norm Chow to come. He wasn't leaving SC at the time.
No.
Why would you leave SC at that time? Who was the triple option guy?
One from Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Paul Johnson.
Paul Johnson. Yep.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm not a fan of that.
Triple option.
We would get like 80 carries a game between 3 backs. That'd be
you've been at your all-time fitness level, right?
Yeah.
What about Bill Cowher? Was there
ever Bill Cowher was like they was trying to get Bill Cowher.
Yeah, he ain't coming out of the league.
He ain't coming out of retirement to come.
Yeah.
Because was he still in Pittsburgh?
He was retired.
No, he was retired. He had just retired.
Yeah, they were saying like he has a house here, just that. I was like, yeah, let's do Bill Cowher. Nope. And then Boston College, Tom O'Brien came out of nowhere, and that was it. I was like, okay. Never at that time, never thought about transferring. That wasn't even in my head.
That's awesome. That's not today's world.
Yeah, see that, and that's the crazy thing. Today's world,
and we'll talk about that in part 2.
Wow, sure. I can't wait to get into this.
The
kids these days. Look, I sound like an old guy saying this now. Like, the kids don't know how nice they have it these days.
And Andre, you're 36, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, you're only 15 years removed from that. Like, it's not like a generation. It's not 40 years ago. It's 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
But where they came, just the amount of stuff they can receive and stuff like that. They're spoiled. I was like, oh my gosh. But to sum that back up to about the coaching stuff, it was just, they ran it by us. We didn't commit. We didn't win those games, and that
was it. Yep. Well, first of all, Andre, thank you so much again for sharing that. I'm definitely excited about part 2 now, y'all. So make sure if you're tuning in with us, make sure you tune right back in for part 2, y'all, as we continue this conversation. Talk about Andre's time a little bit in the NFL, but definitely start talking about NIL, because I definitely want to get into that side as well. But Andre, what are for us, state fans, who want to keep in touch with you, see what you're up to, and things like that. What would you say to any fan who wants to stay in touch with and see what you're up to?
I'm okay. Look, you reached out to me on Twitter. I still do that. That's my thing.
Okay. That's still a thing this week.
Yeah, this week.
It's not even Twitter anymore, Andre.
I know, right? It's this. I just noticed that when you guys text me this morning, it's the X up there. I was like, what the X mean? Like, okay.
Elon got to be Elon.
Okay, and I say Twitter. My LinkedIn, my professional side of the house, I am very heavy on LinkedIn.
Nice.
That's what us older people do, Andre.
Yeah.
Instagram, I
Right.
might post a pic or two, but nah.
All right. Well, well,
Uh,
well, let's summarize it for fans to go give Andre a follow at Dre Dre Brown 35 at Dre Brown 35. Go give him a follow at Twitter or at X, whatever whatever you want to call it. And but yeah, Wolfpack Nation, we'll see y'all for part two. So keep this conversation going and go Pack, y'all.